The first suspected case of bird flu involving a person has been identified in Ohio, according to the Ohio Department of Health. They are saying suspected as they are waiting on the official test results to come back. The agency states that the case involves a farm worker in Mercer County who was in contact with deceased commercial poultry. Mercer County borders the state of Indiana. The CDC says the risk of the public contracting bird flu is still low. If you are in contact with live poultry, you are advised to thoroughly wash your hands with soap and water. A common cold, the flu, and a bacterial infection all share similar symptoms, but recognizing the difference between the three could save your life. Our Peyton Brooker talked with the Mid-Ohio Valley Health Department to learn how to identify each illness and prevent them.
The Mid-Ohio Valley Health Department says there are differences between a cold, a flu, and a bacterial infection. Public Information Officer for the Mid-Ohio Valley Health Department, Amy Phelps, says the flu and colds can be similar.
Cold and flu will tend to have the same symptoms and even like kind of a same duration of like 7 to 10 days.
Phelps says some of those symptoms include runny nose, sore throat, coughing, and headaches. The difference that is the flu is more sudden, while cold happens more gradually. The flu usually involves a fever and body aches, while colds do not. Even more serious than the flu or a cold is bacterial infections.
Bacterial infection, which is generally pneumonia, is the most severe illness, and it's an infection in the lungs, and then it can have a longer period of the symptoms going on.
According to the American Lung Association, pneumonia can be a complication of the flu, but there are other causes. If you're having any shortness of breath or chest pains, Amy recommends to seek help.
If you're having chest pains or trouble breathing, you need to seek medical help, like your medical provider and such for it. And then it can be treated so you can get medicine for it.
If you are dealing with a cold or flu, Phelps says it's important to keep healthy habits and take available vaccines.
It's every year around this year is when everybody's indoors, everybody's kind of up on top of each other, so you're kind of sharing more germs. So you'll want to kind of make sure you're keeping away from sick people. If you're sick, stay home, don't go out. Flu vaccines are available. You could still get one now, and that can kind of help the worst of the symptoms. Colds, you're just gonna have to try to cover your coughs and sneezes as much as possible when you're sick, so you're not spreading them for colds and flus.
This is Peyton Brooker, WTAP News.
Let's head back over to